everybody. Happy holidays and welcome to the Sideline Report. I'm Marvin Jackson, along with Donna Hopkins, Lou Holder, and Jason Campbell. Thanks for joining me today, everybody.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Hey, Marvin.
Good to have JC back in the house.
We got JC back, man. And he's a busy guy these days. Talk a little bit, before we get into the Washington game, talk a little bit about what you've been doing, Jason.
Yeah, I've been doing CBS with NFL Monday Quarterbacks. So I do that like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and also do the Auburn radio for the Auburn Sports Network team. I also do NBC with Washington. So I was pregame NBC yesterday and postgame, and I also will be doing pregame this week with the Dallas Cowboys. Haven't decided we're going to do postgame just yet. We'll see. Such a late start, but so, yeah, that's what I've been doing mostly. And, it's been fun. It's been, enjoying it and everything. Give you a different platform.
Marvin,
I enjoyed you last night hooking up with Brian Mitchell.
Yeah. B. Mitch. B. Mitch going to speak his mind. So, it's always good to be on there with B because, he doesn't care if he ruffle any feathers. So, that's one way to keep it honest and good. So, it was a fun time.
Lou and Donna were on the road, so they missed out.
Hey, Marvin, I have to ask this real quick. We all used to interview you, Jason, when you played. Now that you are on the other end and you're part of us in the media, what has been the differences that you see? I mean, now that you just mentioned all the things that you've been doing, what do you think has been the major, kind of cool or kind of different things that you've seen from when people put the mic in front of you for now you are asking the questions yourself?
Well, the one thing that is when you talk to these players, and as a player, you can win a football game, and in your mind, you didn't play that great, but you won the game, and then the next day in the papers or the media can make it seem like you played so awesome, and you knew that you didn't. And then there are some games that when the team lost, but in your head you did all your assignments and you played great, but then on the other side of it, it's like, oh man, this guy he can't do this, can't do that, and it's just like. No, that guy did what he was coached up to do, but you don't see all the other ins and outs. So I think that's the biggest part for me is watching the game after I played it and then being on this side of it. It's been really fun because I can see from what reporters see and then from my insight of playing in the game. For example, when I was watching the Jackson State and South Carolina State game, I went to that game. There was a play where Deion's son got sacked in the backfield. These people behind me were just yelling, he got to get rid of the ball. He got to know what he's doing. And I'm just like, no, the running back, that's the running back's guy. It was a corner blitz. The running back's supposed to scan for protection, and he's supposed to go get that guy. When he saw it too late, he tried to come back, but he was sacked. And it's just certain things like that where I that's the good part that I can share, in this aspect. But like I said, I have a lot of respect for reporters because I understand, man, I'm thankful that I was, genuine and did all my interviews with everybody because it's hard to talk to some of these guys after a loss. And like Jonathan Allen did last night, he said, I'm not making any excuses on COVID. He said, we got our butts whipped up front, and he said, and it starts with me. He didn't make any excuses and he got up there and handled like a pro where a lot of guys would have just, I don't feel like talking today. I'm out.
So let's talk about that game last night. Well, let's start with Donna and then we'll go around the room.
Yeah, Marvin, I mean, it was going to be a difficult game to play, but as Terry McLaurin said that, hey, whether they got the extra days to prepare for them, they still were preparing to go play that game, no matter who was on the field with, playing that as a team. I mean, I think that Gilbert, the quarterback that came in 72 hours, had to get to know the players. As he said, they wore masks, and it was hard for him to know who those players were because he just didn't have that time. But considering, the time frame that he had, I thought that he did a pretty good job, with what he was asked to do. And at the end of the day, this Washington football team still had a chance to win a 27-17 loss, but they were in the game, where the defense kind of let them run all over the place. But it was a tough day at the office, but just the fact that they still had a chance to win. And this COVID situation is not going away. It could, they could get a lot of players back, but then they can lose a lot of players Again, and I like what Jason said or what Jonathan Allen said. At the end of the day, whoever's on the field, you still got to go play. And if you didn't get your job done, then that's where it lays at the end of the day. So it was just tough.
It was a typical NFC East game in December. It was like deja vu. I've been so many times at the Link, before that at the Vet, where Washington would start off strong and then Philly would counter and figure things out. So it had a blooper play where it went off a guy's heel and you went back for a touchdown, and a lot of crazy stuff happened. But at the end of the day, you were looking at a guy who had just gotten to the facility on Friday and was forced to play in a meaningful game on a Tuesday. And they still had a chance. So you need plays here, you need plays there. Again, this whole season, Marvin, I've been telling you that it's not only Ron Rivera that I've been looking at as far as getting these players ready. I think Scott Turner had a bad day. Just figuring out certain things. They could have been a lot more, how should I say, one-dimensional. It seemed like Philly figured them out. And there was no counter to the figuring out. And at the end of the day, that's what the coordinators got to be exotic. They got to be changing as the game goes through. They got to be able to say, okay, if you're going to check, I'm going to check you here. And I don't know if Scott Turner did that enough for my liking, because you could have had that game. Now, it's going to be hard. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it's going to be hard for this team to win out with 2 games on the road. But hopefully, with this up and down year that has seen ups and downs, that it will end on an upside.
And Jason Campbell, talk about that game last night in the quarterback situation. How difficult was that for that quarterback to come in there?
Yeah, you talk about Gilbert. The thing about this guy was on the practice squad for the Patriots, just a little over a week and a half ago. And he gets to the facility on Friday. And the reason that Coach Rivera went and got him and chose him over Shermer was because of the simple fact of his relationship back when he was in Carolina. And, this kid, he played in a game last year for the Dallas Cowboys and everything. So he had a little bit of a game experience. And then going into this game against Philly, I didn't really necessarily feel like he lost the game or either he won the game. Like, he showed that he has a big arm. There's a couple third down throws that he made that he stood in the pocket and took a hit and gave the guys the opportunity to catch the ball. Now, the thing that concerned me the most is, Gibson, when the game first started, you couldn't have asked for a better start. You get a short field, the ref catch the ball on the camera, video, the guy bouncing off the guy's foot. And then all of a sudden, Montez Sweat gets a sack, fumble. And now all of a sudden you set your offense up again. You go up 10-0 and on the road with a quarterback that wasn't on your roster a week from then. Now this game was supposed to have been heavily put onto the defense, because this was supposed to have been their bread and butter. And you knew the Eagles could run the football. And you knew they really couldn't throw it successfully that much, but they could run the football. So I don't understand how come we wasn't gearing up instead of just standing those 4-man fronts and not going to a 5-2 sometimes and trying to change up the defense to have someone to stop the run, force Jalen Hurts to really make accurate throws down the field. And these guys were just gashing them for 5 and 6 yards a pop. And I'm talking about holes as wide as a street. And, that's what Jonathan Allen was talking about. Like, everybody was worried about what the quarterback situation was going to be. The game was lost on the defensive front.
Jason, I like the way you said go to a 5-2 in situations like that. Do teams do they routinely practice, like saying, okay, if they start running, we're going to go to 5-2? Do a lot of teams do that in practice?
You see like the great teams, like the teams that are like Belichick. Like Belichick is going to make an adjustment within the game. So in the first half, let's just face it, the first quarter was all Washington. Philly couldn't get anything going. You could tell they was coming off a bye, their rhythm and everything was just off. But all of a sudden, that second quarter came, and it's just almost like they just boom. They just started hitting all cylinders. They running the ball. And at halftime, okay, you got to go in and say, okay, let's take a deep breath. This is what they're doing to us offensively. Now, defensively, we're gonna have to get into a different set and get out of this 4-man front so that we can create more gaps, because they're running a zone system, and we need more guys in the gaps to be ready and be to be there for the tackles, and their safeties have got to get more involved. But my whole thing is, after halftime, they still didn't make any adjustments. They stayed pretty much in that same defense, and they just kept gashing them. And you're talking about a game that was at one point 20 to 17, with an opportunity for Washington still to win the game, and you just couldn't get it done. And I see why Johnson Allen was so upset, because they could have won this game, and it would have been better than just a win. It would have done a whole lot more than that.
Like you said, at the end of the day, this Washington team, despite whoever they had on the field, they had opportunities to win. And Coach Rivera said that they missed this play, that play. But I'm like Jason, and I know Tony McGee was talking about the defense did enough to win that game. And I was like, were you watching the same game I was watching? I said, because the defense, despite being on the field a long time, if they could have just stopped the run. And I'm like, Jason, why didn't you make any adjustments? I mean, I think that's been the Achilles heel all season long, is you come out at the half and you didn't make the adjustments to move forward. And what's frustrating about this is I didn't think Washington to even be close of talking about that they could have possibly won the game. But they were in the game the whole time, and to come away and to lose it like that, that's disappointing.
All right. Okay, well, look, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk a little more about this Washington situation, especially with the quarterbacks and the upcoming game against the Dallas Cowboys.